Hello, everyone. My name is Marissa Bell. I run insights for our international markets here at Reddit, and I use our first party, second party, and third party data essentially to understand our communities and to showcase their value more broadly. But here specifically, I'm here to talk about the rise of the digital first insight community and some of the differences between more traditional qualitative methods and the introduction of social listening. So first, if we look at social listening as a field, it's only been around for about 16 years as a discipline. If you think back to when Twitter and Facebook and some of these other social media platforms were created, it really has not been that long. So we are still in the time now, really, where we are creating and perfecting those methods when it comes to social listening as a qualitative method. And what it means to do qualitative research, especially now that this is a possibility, has been changing. And now it has never been so accessible or so fast in sometimes what some may seem as a slower, more time intensive method when it comes to research. And this gives us a different way to understand consumers and to get in a different type of perspective for how people are thinking about the various issues of today versus a one-on-one interview or a focus group or ethnographic research. And I'm here to talk a bit about some of those nuances between the different methods. And one of the big things about today, and especially today as insights experts, is both digital and traditional qualitative research are imperative to solve the business challenges of today. We're living in a continuously online society, and that means that both of these perspectives are incredibly important to keep in mind when we are solving these various challenges, given that people are living their lives on these digital platforms. They are having deep conversations. They are understanding things about themselves and the world on these platforms, in addition to having more direct conversations through our other qualitative methods to unearth the different insights that we are looking for to solve those challenges. So it's really important to use both of these different methods, knowing their strengths and weaknesses to tell that broader story. So if we're looking at the opportunities for social listening in the context of qualitative research, think about the large sample sizes that we have here. We are talking about hundreds of millions of new posts a day. We have 500 million tweets per day. We have 11 million Reddit posts per day. We have 350 million photos of Facebook per day happening every single day. That is an incredible, incredible wealth of data that is available to do your qualitative thematic analysis any day of the week. And this also allows you the possibility for a more statistically significant thematic finding, given that you could have thousands or millions of posts within a certain topic a bundle that allows you to have more support for the various findings that you are showcasing, as well as within that sample, a more diverse demographically, geographically, and socioeconomically cohort. These are people all over the globe from all different backgrounds in life that may be a lot more difficult for you to access in a more traditional method when it comes to a one-on-one interview or focus group, where you also have to compensate for those people's time. Here you already have people sharing those thoughts on their own volition across the entire globe. Speed. Speed is a huge one here. So not only do you have hundreds of millions of posts coming in every single day, but they're happening in real time. You know, there are thousands of new posts every second. And this is allowing researchers an ability to turn around a project in a few hours rather than days or weeks, or even if it is a much more robust view at some of the different social media posts in their thematic analysis, you can do this immediately. There's no wait for collecting this data set. It is all historical data set, and you can begin that analysis right away. Not only that, but all of the posts from, as I was saying before, for the demographic variation are all there. So it's an incredibly, incredibly fast method and way for you to do your qualitative research. And not only that, but there is a different way in which people are communicating digitally than they would in a more traditional conversation situation, either in person or through a video. So here, when you're looking at social media posts, there is an almost untouched, authentic way in which people are having these discussions online, whether that's on Twitter or on Reddit, in a back and forth discourse. You have a potentially more honest and nuanced opinions and perspectives being shared. They are not being compensated for these posts. They are willingly engaging in these different types of conversations. And there's no fear of judgment from an interviewer, and they are protected in this digital space. They can say exactly how they are feeling or what they are thinking within these different posts. And not only that, but they can edit in real time as they're building this thought or perspective or opinion. They can edit that before they are posting it, and they can take that time to communicate their perspective in the written form, which some people may not have as well thought out ideas or responses in a live conversation. So it really allows for some of the more thoughtful and well put together responses to show. They're protected in this digital space, or so they think, sometimes for the good or the bad, but here for the good, in terms of, we've seen even on Reddit just some incredibly honest conversations that people have with others on the platform because they have this pseudonymity and they are protected in the space, and they're able to share the deep, honest issues that they're having, whether that's from alcohol to childbearing to a bunch of other difficult conversations to have. So you're really opening up that opportunity to get more honest and authentic opinions and perspectives when you look at some of these social media posts versus if you were in a more physical environment during that one-on-one interview or that focus group where someone may be scared to share that perspective. And here we have the AI and NLP, natural language processing, automated thematic categorization. So you have the ability here to identify and create themes that can be implemented across thousands of posts. And of course, there is the human aspect of it where you have to categorize a small sample of those posts to then have the automated thematic categorization, but you're able to only put in a small amount of time, really, compared to the more traditional methods, to then categorize millions of posts on top of that using the natural language processing in the sample set that you've already categorized. So say you're creating 10 different themes within this sample of hundreds of millions of posts, you are then able to get, 28% of people, very fun, silly example, love the colors of Skittles. And that is what they are talking about in the context of Skittles. And of course, there are many other implementations of that as well, but you have all of these algorithms that were created to understand these text-based social media posts and to be done very, very quickly, which comes back to this idea of the speed that is possible and the speed that is possible to understand these different categories within your social listening sample set. And not only that, but there has been improvements over time in the natural language processing that has led to more accurate thematic identification. They're getting better at understanding some of the keyword combinations and the nuances within what it means to identify some of those different themes. And when you are training these different posts, what is it within those text-based posts that is creating that overall theme? So there have been a lot of improvements in this field, which has led to much better thematic categorization, which has been incredible. And here we get into some of the limitations outside of all of the amazing speed and incredible access within social listening. Of course, there are some limitations versus some of the more traditional methods. So here, one of the biggest things is, even if back from one of the opportunities that I was sharing, there being potentially more honest and authentic conversations that are happening on a platform around, the difficulties of childbearing or being a parent, and you're seeing these amazing conversations unfold, discussing the nuances of what that means. As a researcher, you are not an active participant in those conversations. You are not able to ask follow-up questions during that conversation online. You are merely an observer. You are merely taking in all of the conversations that are happening as a passive observer. So as a researcher, you're not able to probe the respondents for further insights or for clarifying questions or explanations. One of the best things about one-on-one interviews is you can guide people down a path of where you would really like them to expand upon a certain idea over time. While for social listening, you have to take the large sample set and hope that the answers are there within the hundreds of millions of posts, which normally they are, but you're not able to take one person down this continuous idea, which is a big departure from some of the benefits of social listening. And really, the researcher is at the mercy of how this conversation is playing out on social media. And depending on, and this is why it's key also to understand the different social media platforms and what they offer. Twitter sometimes does not excel in a discourse because you're limited to a set amount of characters. It's very difficult to have a nuanced back and forth conversation, and it is more expressing kind of your one idea, while Reddit is really lent to that back and forth discourse with a threaded comment string, as well as a pseudo-anonymity, versus Instagram, a similar idea. You are sharing out an opinion into the world, and it's less about that back and forth conversation. So as a researcher, it's really important to understand, how do these different platforms bring about social conversation, and then what are your limitations in terms of how you can understand or parse out the themes when it comes to this social media data. And here is one of the biggest limitations in my mind that I am hoping for continual advancement as we get better with our AI and our NLP tools, is that the sentiment tools are still not fully accurate. They're still, the NLP models are still not fully accurate when it comes to the sentiment and the ways that people can express this sentiment when it comes to slang or multiple different types of sentiment or sarcasm. There's still a lot of work to be done here to get an accurate 87% is positive, 60% is negative, et cetera, or neutral, et cetera, let alone when it comes to emotions. There's still, if you want a holistically accurate look at sentiment, there definitely is still some manual coding that is required to accurately understand even basic sentiment during that thematic analysis. So even if the set themes of the categorization has been doing a lot better and it is much more accurate, the sentiment within is not quite up there. So there is, similar to the traditional methods, there is that manual necessity of going through these different posts and coding it as a human to recognize that positive and negative sentiment. So I'm hoping in this field that we see some progress soon. We are not able to target a specific audience. So here, as going back to the opportunities of reaching hundreds of millions of different posts every day, reaching people across the globe, you're not able to narrow that aperture. So yes, you're able to reach all of these different people from all over the world every day who may not have been accessible before. If you are trying to target a specific audience cohort, you cannot control that within the social listening realm. That is only through your custom qualitative research where you're looking for a specific demographic who has done a specific thing or has made a specific purchase or believes X, Y, and Z. You cannot identify those people within social listening. You only can do that within the traditional screening and sampling methods of traditional qualitative research. So that's why if you are trying to analyze perspectives of a unique or hard to reach audience, social listening may not be the best fit here. I would probably remain within the traditional one-to-one focus groups, et cetera, where you can control the audience of people who you are talking to, and you can ensure that they have the baseline requirements that you are looking to get. But a lot of the times, you can have a more broad perspective of within social listening of some of these themes that are coming to life in the context of X, Y, and Z conversation, and then use some of these more traditional methods to dive a bit deeper from there to get into more specific nuances of these audiences, which is why I don't think these, again, these tools are not in competition with one another. They are enhancements of one another. And so what's next? So here, it's really imperative as insights experts to understand the strengths and weaknesses of the traditional and digital qualitative research divide. Both of them are valuable in different ways to your research tool belt, and again, to complement one another. These are two different ways to get a qualitative thematic understanding of your consumer, and you need to utilize both of them strategically because they are allowing you to create different types of compelling solutions for your business problems, as well as the recommended actions based off of those insights. These different tools, as I was just talking about, have different ways in which you can uncover different insights in the context of the problem that you are trying to solve. And social listening is allowing researchers to understand themes at scale and in real time. Hundreds of millions of posts, hundreds of millions of posts a second. You are talking about real-time understanding of different thematic categories across multiple different platforms. And traditional qualitative interviews are instead enabling for that specificity, for the research question in depth. So you can always utilize both of these methods together to first understand at scale what are the different themes attached to the problem at hand, and then to possibly dive a bit deeper within either a specific cohort or within a specific behavior where you can really control how these respondents are answering it. And by combining both of these methods together, researchers are able to uncover broad thematic patterns within a topic, but are then also able to dive deeper into any of those potential tensions or opacity. And this is why it's an exciting time to really be in the social listening field when it comes to qualitative research, because if I do this interview, if I do this talk in a few years, all of those benefits are going to change. The technology has really been moving forward in terms of what you're equipping the researcher to be able to do with this massive text cohort. But of course, it never fully replaces these more traditional methods, but instead is additive, is a different way to understand this broad world and the different perspectives that consumers have for us to solve these business challenges. And that is all I have for you all today. It was lovely speaking to you all. If anyone has any questions about social listening at large, I've been in this space for over 10 years, essentially since the creation of it. And it has been incredible to see where we are now. So thank you. Goodbye.